I'm going to start off with a warning. This is a video that I've wanted to make for a while, and it's a video that I haven't made until now. I'm going to be discussing something very personal that I think some people may find an issue. If this worries you, please do not watch this video. If you are not in a good mental space, do not watch this video. You can always come back later. So we're going to start here. And you may ask where here is. This is a small road. It sits in between Honington and Bury, and I drove down it every day for months. It's off the beaten track. Almost nobody drives down here apart from a couple of locals and farm equipment. There is nothing out here apart from fields, some flying birds, and some pigs. But this place, specifically where I've stopped here, is very important to me, and it always will be. And it's a place I never want to come back to. So let me give you a bit of context. For this video to make sense, I want you to understand the timeline that's involved. So it actually goes back to when Clara was born. Natasha was suffering from a bit of postnatal depression. She had introduced Clara to everyone. And then as the depression kicked in, she stopped going out. My family came up to visit, and my youngest sister was feeding her, and she just threw up. She just wasn't keeping any milk down. We thought we'd try again, a bit later when we got home, because it was cold, it was cold. We got home, and she still wouldn't take the bottle. And then we got to the next morning, and she still wouldn't have anything. And there were red crystals in her nappy. A sign of, sort of like salt dehydration. So we took her up to A&E. And Clara was admitted pretty much straight away. I mean, literally within minutes, there were doctors around her with a bottle of oxygen. Just going, right, we're just going to take her upstairs, onto the rainbow ward, and it was quite scary. Natasha was on some serious medication, so she couldn't stay with Clara, so I had to. But she got very sick, and she was in there on, I think it was 45% oxygen for 10 days, basically. RSV bronchiolitis, it was awful. So we got out of that. Natasha was now absolutely paranoid. The doctors warned us that Clara may have a few sort of like wheezing or breathing issues for a bit, but as her lungs grew, as she got bigger, she'd be better by the time she got to about 3. It wouldn't be a problem. So that worry kind of stuck. Life carried on as normal, and then we got to March of 2020. Natasha had kind of stopped going out before this, and I was slowly coaxing her, saying, come on, let's go back out, let's go see the town, people are asking after you, we'll nip to church on a Sunday morning, and just, even if it's just for an hour, you're out the house. And she was psyching herself up for it. And then we got hit by lockdown. Not just hit by lockdown, but the announcement of COVID and what it was. It was basically a respiratory disease, a condition. You got a bug in your system and you would have trouble breathing. Tasha got paranoid for herself because she obviously had asthma. And then she got paranoid for Clara, who obviously doctor's warning echoing in the ears of try not to, she's going to have these breathing issues. So Natasha then decided pretty much to stay indoors all the time, which left me to run the kids to school. That was the start of Natasha getting ill. So I'd run the kids to school, I'd do shopping, I'd come home, tidy the house, look after Natasha. And it sounds really stupid. I was not the best at doing all of that stuff. My timekeeping was terrible. My tidiness was pretty much non-existent. So it was a bit of a sharp learning curve. Then Natasha started to get worse, and I effectively became, I became a carer. I got paid to be her carer after that point. But lockdown then hit us both mentally. The different regions going up to their tier 1, tier 3, tier 4. And then people started passing away. Between us, we had 10 family members pass away. 10. Far enough away that we couldn't, go and grieve or go to the funerals. Tasha wasn't bedbound, but journeys were becoming difficult. Getting her in the car, getting her out. If we were in the car, from here to Thetford is an 8-minute drive. We could do that 15 minutes in the shops, and then she'd ask to be taken home because she was just in pain. That was it. God forbid we actually tried to drive any further. Yes, we lost 10. And the cat. And the cat is effectively a family member as well. Anyone who owns a cat will tell you that. Finally, a year and a half into the 2-week lockdown, it all started to reopen again. Just started the summer holidays. Kids have been at home a couple of weeks, and they were insane because they were kids. Of course they were. Started getting them ready to go. I think Seb was heading up to year 2. Clara was just off from nursery. And Sebby's birthday. Sebby gets some presents, and Clara jumps into the bedroom with Mummy, gives her a cuddle. And goes, "Mummy, you've got yellow eyes." Now, she'd sat in the same place for a while. Curtains were always closed. West facing, she'd go blind if she had them open in the afternoon, and we just never opened them in the morning. So I didn't notice. Clara did. So we thought we'd book Tasha in, to go see the doctor. Next day, they rang ahead, and we went up to, the doctor rang ahead because we got straight up to A&E, and they just admitted us straight away. Liver issues, bit low on various things and stuff. So I'm there alone with the kids. I mean, it's okay. It's just me with the 2 kids. It's fine to start with. People wondering what's up with Natasha, and I'm saying the best that I can. A couple of offers of help, but it's easy. I can do it. There's nothing wrong. Yes, it's a bit of a stretch, but I can do it. Tasha comes home in September, but she needs extra help because she's got worse. But you can't tell anyone that, and the hospital certainly weren't listening. So I'm now looking after 3 children, basically. Do all the cooking, all the cleaning, vacuuming, getting the school stuff. We get to October, and Natasha's not great. Call out an ambulance to come have a look at her, and they say that there is a problem. So she gets taken up to A&E, and she gets stuck on the gastro ward again. This time for a much longer stretch, so like 4 more weeks. So I'm now back at home with the kids, and this is where the problems start, because it's now October. Temperatures are going down, there's rain in the air. So everything I could keep on top of before, now I have issues with. Getting the kids' washing for school done was insane. Because when you get to a point where you don't have access to the line outside, you have to worry about stuff inside. You've got the tumble dryer and stuff in the washing machine. And you've got to wait for one lot to finish before you can get the next lot in. You've got stuff hanging over chairs, but then the stuff in the washing machine sits there. Because you can't do any more, and the pile just keeps getting bigger. And then getting the kids up. And every time Natasha was in hospital, I would visit. I'd visit every day. As a carer, that was my job, effectively. I was paid to do that. I had a badge. I had access to all of the facilities that the nurses had, and I would visit every day. I'd wake up in the dark. I'd get the kids out of bed. I would get them to school. I would go up to the hospital. Then I'd finish at the hospital. I would drive in the dark to go pick the kids up. I would get home. I'd get them food. I'd get them to bed. Then I would do washing, tidying, cleaning. I would then chill out as best I could and then go to bed and repeat. And for a week or two, that's fine. For 4 weeks, you can just about do it. And then it kept on going. And during this time, people kept offering me help. And at the beginning, I started off saying, no, I don't need any help. I can do this. And then as time ticked on, they'd offer help, and it would be, no, I'm okay. I'm sure it's only short term. I don't need to worry. And then months down the line, people were offering help. By which time pride had kicked in, going, I've handled it for this long. I don't need any help now, despite the fact that I really did. I hope that gives you some idea of the frame of mind that I spent several months in. My life just consisted of being in the dark, driving, sitting in a hospital surrounded by the ill, the infirm, and the dying. Saw more than one body being wheeled out. And then leaving there in the dark, picking up the kids, getting home. Food, bath, bed. And then I either had a choice to do the housework that I hadn't done, to do the washing that I hadn't done, to have some self-care or get some sleep. There was more than one occasion where I'd put the kids to bed and I would sit on the sofa, grab the Xbox controller. And the next thing I know, I'm opening my eyes and the kids were already late for school. I was tired. I was exhausted, mentally and physically exhausted. And that brings me to the road. The road I drove down every day for months. Because one day I was driving from the hospital and I stopped where I've shown you. It was pitch black. And I knew that the next vehicle to go past me would be a tractor at stupid o'clock in the morning complaining he couldn't get into a field because I was in the way. And I had every intention of never leaving. I was going to end it. And I didn't. I couldn't. Now you'll ask people about this if they've tried, and they'll say that they had, a vision of their children or people they're leaving behind. No. I couldn't do it because I was too much of a coward. Because I was too tired. I had nothing left. I couldn't do anything. So I sat there and I cried. And I cried. And I have no idea how long I sat there for. And then I started driving. And I blamed the traffic coming out of Bury. And I picked the kids up and we went home. And they had food, had a bath, and they went to bed. And that was the first time I called the Samaritans. And I cried again. And it didn't help to start with. But just the act of talking to someone who wasn't involved, someone who wasn't friends or family or hospital or judgmental in my eyes. Just to speak to someone just for an outside conversation more than anything. It gave me just a little bit. And then the next day when I got the kids home again, I went to bed and I called the Samaritans again. Hours each day. Just talking, listening. Trying to find out about them to take my mind off stuff. And the lady on the phone mentioned that they were doing a charity thing. Would I like to take part to help try and distract myself? And I said, yeah. I went into the hospital and I told Natasha I was going to be doing it, and I was going to be doing 10,000 steps a day in March. That's when we came upon the idea of me making these videos to start with. And her idea of putting the song in it to rickroll everyone. So it all started to feel like it was on the mend. And then we got to February 13th. And things hadn't changed. In fact, they'd got slightly worse. Tasha now needed emergency surgery because there was a rupture between the bowel and the stomach lining, or the lining in her gut. So she needed emergency surgery. And I got this phone call from her on the 13th saying, and I will never forget it, tell the kids I love them and I love you. And I said, you can tell them yourself, you'll see them soon. And I love you too. there was a commotion, and the doctors were coming to take her down, so she said bye and she hung up. I honestly don't know if she heard me say love you, because it was all so rushed at the last minute. But I honestly thought that after a couple of days I'd take the kids in to see her again, like we had done for months. Now, I've spoken to the doctors before, and they'd said the operation would take about 4 hours, because I'd have to open her up, find the rupture, stitch it up, and then close her up again, and it would take about 4 hours. So when I get a phone call from the doctors about an hour later, saying that they want to talk to me, I am thinking the worst. But it turns out that where they opened her up was directly on top of the rupture. So they got so lucky, they managed to get in, get it all done, get it closed up. He phoned me whilst someone else was closing up to tell me that it was a success, but she wasn't out of the woods because there was a lot of mess. I didn't sleep at all for several days. Next day was Valentine's Day, and I took a card up for her. It's quite ironic that every time we had Valentine's Day, I was always late. This year I had a card prepared. It was written out, it had a present for her inside it, and it was in an envelope waiting for her. And I actually wrote a joke in it about the fact that I was on time for once this year. She never read it. In fact, the nurse who was looking after her on the 15th actually opened it up and read it to her. I like to think that she heard. I like to think that she knew it was from me. Then the unthinkable happened. Right at the end of February. I went in to see her every day for 2 weeks in a coma. And every single day I would be up to watch the sunrise, and I would put a picture of it on Facebook. It's like one more sunrise, hoping that every day something would change. And every single day the doctors would say no change. Or if they were being optimistic, they'd say she hasn't got worse. And then she got pneumonia, and the jaundice came back. And they said that the liver just wasn't working, and there was very little else they could do. I wasn't there for the final few breaths. Because she made me promise not to be. Because we talked about it more than once. Never thought I would actually ever need to. But we spoke about it, and we promised no matter what we'd only see each other in the best way possible. And if that meant not being there for the final moments, I've watched people pass away before. In my workers bingo caller, you have an old crowd, and 5 people have passed away right in front of my eyes. You never forget. Seeing the last moments, hearing that last breath leave their body. There's a smell and aura around the instant after they go, which haunts me. And these were customers. I couldn't imagine how I'd feel if it was someone close to me. So, her dad was with her. She wasn't alone. Though part of me thinks she probably would want to be. I will always feel guilty for not being there, but I know that if I had been, I wouldn't be here now. I would have driven back to that road. And again, I would have stayed there. And then the 1st of March rolled around. And I promised her that I would do these videos, I would put the jokes in, and I would talk about everything, and I did. And I raised a lot of money for a good charity. And I'll do it again. This whole year's just been about creating a memory. Because in myself, I know that I put on a brave face. But inside, every day, I fall apart. I've spoken to professionals, and I look back on it now and it just seems so obvious. I spent years denying anything was wrong, pretending that I could cope with everything when I couldn't. Everything was so dull. There was no colour in anything. The only way I can describe it is if you watch Lord of the Rings, the first one, when they go into the tavern before they meet Strider, and Frodo's sitting looking at a fire. You know a fire is supposed to be warming and welcoming and everything, but it looks off. It just looks horrible. Everything in the world was that dull, muted set of colours that I realise now was me depressed, my brain not focusing and not dealing with everything. Get to 3 o'clock in the morning and I would have a shower. And I would sit down in the bath and just let the water hit me so I could feel something. So that's it. I never want to come back here again. I never want to feel that way again. But I am here. Because I'm at a place in my life where I'm strong enough to accept what's happened, to accept how I felt and accept how I've moved on. I look around now and I see colour, I see life. And I know that I can move forward through all this. And no matter where the road takes me, I know that I can pass by a place like this. And I know that I'm not going to stop here again. If you need any help, I'm going to put some numbers up on the screen and in the description. Do not be afraid to call. And if you don't want to call them, you can reach out to me personally, and I will help you as much as I can. Bye for now.